Did you know that more than 60% of engine wear happens within the first few seconds after you start your car? That's right, most engines don't fail at highway speeds or after long trips. Instead, they're slowly damaged by the small mistakes drivers make every morning when they turn the key or push the start button. The reality is simple. What happens in those first 30 seconds can decide if your engine tops out at 100,000 miles or pushes past 500,000. The problem? Most drivers unintentionally abuse their engines during startup, setting themselves up for costly repairs. In this video, we'll uncover the 11 most common startup mistakes that quietly destroy engines and show you how a few easy habit changes can keep your car running strong for decades. Let's jump in. Mistake 11, revving the engine right after startup. Lots of drivers love to hear their car roar to life, so they stomp on the gas the moment it fires up. But that's one of the worst things you can do. At startup, the oil hasn't warmed or fully circulated yet. Pistons, valves, and bearings are moving with almost no protection. Revving at this stage creates intense friction, leaving scratches on cylinder walls and shaving years off engine life. Instead, let the engine idle smoothly for at least 30 seconds before giving it throttle, especially in colder weather. Mistake 10, skipping the warning light check. Those little icons on your dashboard aren't just for show, they're a built-in system test. When you switch the ignition on, every light should briefly illuminate. If you don't pay attention, you might miss critical alerts like low oil pressure or a failing alternator. Driving even a few miles with no oil pressure can completely lock up an engine. A quick glance at startup could save you thousands. Mistake 9, started with accessories left on. If your AC, headlights, or stereo are still running when you start the engine, you're putting extra load on the battery and alternator. The starter already pulls a heavy surge of current, and those added accessories drain it even faster. While this may not directly kill the motor, weak starts cause misfires, rough idling, and strain that speeds up wear. Always turn off accessories before cranking. Mistake 8, holding the key too long. Turning the key too long grinds the starter against the flywheel, damaging the teeth and stressing mounts. The fix is simple. Turn until the engine fires, then let go immediately. For push-button ignitions, the same rule applies. Just press once and let the system handle the rest. Mistake 7, pressing the gas while starting. Back in the carburetor days, pumping the gas pedal helped the engine start. But with modern fuel injection, it's unnecessary and damaging. Doing so dumps extra fuel into the chamber, washing oil off cylinder walls and making the engine harder to fire. The right move? Foot off the gas, turn the key, and let the ECU manage fuel delivery. Mistake 6, constant short trips. Repeated short drives don't let your engine reach full operating temperature. That traps water vapor and unburned fuel in the oil and exhaust, leading to sludge, rust, and faster breakdown. To prevent this, combine errands into one longer trip, or occasionally take a 20 to 30 minute drive to let the engine burn off moisture and deposits. Mistake 5, repeatedly cranking when it won't start. If the engine doesn't start, cranking it over and over just makes things worse. Each attempt dumps raw fuel into the cylinders, washing away protective oil and fouling spark plugs. It also overheats the starter and drains the battery. If it doesn't start within 3 tries, stop. Continuing only increases the damage. Mistake 4, starting with the wheel turned hard. Starting with the steering wheel fully cranked left or right puts maximum pressure on the power steering pump right. When the engine is weakest, this drags heavily on the motor and wears out the pump belts and hoses. Always start with the wheels centered, then steer once the engine stabilizes. Mistake 3, running old or thin engine oil. Oil is the lifeblood of your engine, and at startup, it's the very first line of defense. But when oil is old, dirty, or too thin for the engine's needs, it loses its protective qualities. Imagine trying to run a marathon with no water. That's how your pistons, bearings, and valves feel without the proper oil film. At startup, the engine is cold, and oil takes a few seconds to fully circulate. If the oil is worn out or too thin, metal surfaces rub almost directly against each other, creating friction and microscopic scratches. Over time, this accelerates wear and can even lead to oil consumption or bearing damage. On the flip side, dirty oil turns into an abrasive paste, grinding away at your engine from the inside like liquid sandpaper. The fix couldn't be easier. Stick to your oil change schedule, always check your dipstick, and make sure you're using the correct viscosity recommended by your manufacturer. This one habit alone can easily add 100,000 miles to your engine's life and is the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy. Mistake 2. Starting in gear. This one mostly applies to manual transmission drivers, but is a mistake more common than you'd think. Starting your car while it's still in gear can cause it to lurch forward or backward unexpectedly. Not only is this dangerous in tight spaces or near obstacles, but mechanically, it puts massive stress on your starter motor, clutch, and transmission. When you hit the ignition with the car in gear, the starter has to fight not only the engine's resistance, but also the full weight of the car trying to move. That shock load travels through the driveline, wearing out mounts, gears, and clutch components prematurely. Over time, you may notice harder starts, grinding noises, or even a weakened clutch that fails long before its normal lifespan. The solution is simple but essential. Always press the clutch fully before starting. This disengages the transmission, allowing the starter to spin freely without strain. It's a tiny habit that saves you from hundreds or even thousands of dollars in transmission and clutch repairs. Mistake 1. Starting with a weak battery. A weak battery might seem like just an inconvenience, but it's actually one of the silent killers of your engine's health. When your battery doesn't have enough juice, the starter motor cranks slowly and unevenly. This causes incomplete combustion, meaning fuel doesn't burn the way it should. The result? Unburned gasoline enters the exhaust, spark plugs foul, and sticky carbon deposits build up on valves and pistons. But that's not all. Low voltage forces the starter motor to work harder than it was ever designed to, generating heat and where that shortens its lifespan. What seems like a just barely starting situation today can turn into a full-blown no-start problem tomorrow, along with expensive repair bills. The fix? Don't wait until your car leaves you stranded. If you notice slow cranking, dim headlights, or a battery older than 3 years, test it or replace it. A healthy battery keeps the electrical system stable, ensures smooth startups, and protects far more expensive components from premature failure. A dying battery makes the engine crank slowly and unevenly. This leads to poor combustion, unburned fuel, foul plugs, and carbon deposits. It also strains the starter motor. Replace or recharge your battery before it harms more expensive components. Final thoughts. Here's the reality. Engines rarely fail overnight. They don't usually give up because of one big catastrophic event. Instead, it's the little habits we repeat every single day, often without even realizing it, that slowly chip away at their lifespan. Revving too soon, ignoring warning lights, or start with a weak battery may seem harmless in the moment, but over thousands of starts, these mistakes add up like compound interest. Only in this case, the payout is costly repairs and early engine failure. The good news? You don't need to be a mechanic to prevent it. By simply being mindful during those first few seconds after turning the key or pressing the start button, you can literally decide whether your car becomes another disposable machine or a trusted companion that easily outlives its expected mileage. Think about it. The difference between an engine that struggles at 120,000 miles and one that keeps running smoothly past 300,000 often comes down to habits just like these. So, if you want your car to stay reliable, save yourself from massive repair bills, and enjoy smoother drive for years to come, start by avoiding these startup mistakes. Treat your engine with patience and care. It will reward you with longevity, efficiency, and peace of mind every time you get behind the wheel. And remember, your car doesn't need you to be a perfect driver. It just needs you to be a smart one.